Thank you so much once again for joining us this morning. It's going to be a little workshop, and there are going to be lots of practical activities as well, okay? So lots of you are actually going to be working together, which will be fun, hopefully exchanging some ideas, but don't worry. If you just prefer to shadow and if you just prefer to listen, that's perfectly fine as well, okay? I'm going to just share my screen. Emma and I decided to give it a funky title, as it's Monday morning, beginning of the week, and it's a bit difficult for all of us to be here, especially Eva, if you're saying you've been up since 4, okay? So we decided to call it speed dating, okay, which is something that exists in real life, but because we don't want to offend anybody, so please, we have just done it to be a bit funny and ironic. But if we do hurt someone's sensibilities, please let us know, okay? Because that's not our idea, you know, sensitivity, sorry. But we've also called it Find Your Ideal Online Activity. So the idea is I'm going to do some talking, but don't worry, you're not going to have to listen to me all the time. And you're going to be able to share some online or some activities that you think could work well on an online setting. Now, for a bit of fun, and this is going to be the only element of fun in today's session, we are going to watch a short little video, okay? And I'm going to give you a task to do. So you're going to need a piece of paper or pen, or if your memory is wonderful, just write it down in your brain. Remember it in your brains. But if you're old, like me, you might have to write it down. And we are going to find out a bit more about speed dating. And we're going to watch a silly video, okay, on YouTube in which somebody is explaining what speed dating is all about. But as you know, as we're English teachers, when we do a listening activity, it's very important to set a task. So the host of the program, the presenter, is going to ask different men some questions. You need to write down what questions are being asked. Okay? So let me just see. Anna, I think you've got audio now. Can you repeat the instructions, please? What are we going to do?
So we are going to listen, and the person in the video is going to give us some instructions or questions, and we need to write them down.
Fantastic. Okay, yes. The questions are not too difficult, so don't worry about it. Don't panic, okay? And I am going to send the link via the chat in case someone's not able to access it through their own computer, okay? So I've sent that, I believe, sorry, 1 second, to everybody. And remember, we are going to listen out for the questions that the men or the suitors are asked.
Earlier in the week, we had an email from a viewer called Alice Hansen, who told us her best friend, Emily Farley, she's going speed dating. Now, I've never been to a speed dating event. So anyway, it's at a pub in South London, so we thought we'd go in and we'd have a peek. Okay, so we can go over there now, I believe. Okay.
It's so bizarre.
This, apparently, although it's called speed dating, it takes quite a long time. So let's zoom in. Let's zoom in, okay, to Emily. Through the magic of television, I can now talk to her. Hello, Emily.
Hello.
Hi, Emily. Listen, your friend Alice It's Graham Norton here, by the way.
Oh my God.
Don't worry. I'm not trying to pick you up. Alice Hansen, she's a friend of yours, isn't she?
Yeah, that's
all right. She told me you're going to be here, so we just wanted to sit in on your speed dating. Can you shove out of the way, and I'm going to sit in, and I'm going to just whiz through some of these guys who we find someone you like. Okay. Okay. Justin, where are you from?
I'm from Hackney.
Hello. Hi, James.
Hello, Graham. How you doing?
All right. What do you do for a living?
I'm a veterinary technician.
Oh, that's quite good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. How long have you been single?
I've been single probably about 6 months.
Are we liking him?
Oh, give him a shot.
Oh, hang on. Oh, this is Andy. Hi, Andy. Where do you live?
Ealing.
Ealing. Ooh, Ealing. Lovely. What would you ask him, Kim, if you were there?
Does he like older women?
Andy, do you like older women?
Depends how old you're talking.
All right, but let's not go there. I'm bearing you in mind, but for the moment...
Obviously, perhaps in your different settings, this might not have been an appropriate activity. The reason I have chosen to do it today is to demonstrate that we can use audio when we're doing Zoom lessons. We're able to use some authentic material, and we have asked them to carry out a very basic task. There are a lot of things going on, there's a lot of noise in the background, but students should be able to identify the questions that they were asked, the candidates were asked. So we're providing them with a meaningful task. We're getting them to practice their listening tasks. They could write down the questions and so on. So now I am going to put you into different breakout rooms. I would like you to compare with one another the questions that you have heard. Also, I would like you to talk to your partner about the suitability of this activity and how you could adapt it if you were going to use it with your own students. Okay, so the idea is to exchange and compare the questions that you've heard, if this activity would be suitable in your context and how you would adapt it. Please remember that sometimes, depending on the number of Zoom participants, some of you might be successful and enter the breakout room. Some of you might have some issues. So let's try and see what happens.
Okay, let's get to this task before James calls us back. What questions did you hear?
Okay, yeah. At the beginning, it's the first time for me. I have never shared an online workshop, so I wasn't well concentrated at the beginning because it's the first time. But the question I heard is, do you like all women?
Older women, that's right. And I just heard, where do you live?
Yeah.
Okay, it seems that we've all more or less come back to our main screen. Okay, as you can see, the breakout rooms are very, very useful. Okay, it gives you an opportunity to divide the students into pairs or groups. It also gives you some time to prepare for the next activity. Obviously, you can go into the different breakout rooms and you would be able to monitor and see what is going on. Obviously, now it would be perhaps the time to give some feedback to ensure that all the students are on task. We're not going to do that. Okay, we're just going to move on. Okay. Some of you might be asking yourselves, oh my goodness, am I really in the right session? Is this not about teaching? Oh my goodness me, what's all this thing about speed dating? Don't worry, okay, there is actually an explanation which I will be sharing in a moment, okay? So we are going to be looking at speed dating adapted to our context, okay? But before we do, I'm just going to explain what we're going to be doing in this session. So the idea is that we're going to be looking at online lessons, how these can be meaningful and engaging. We're going to look at some online activities that work well in class, and hopefully the idea is that we're going to be able to exchange our favorite teaching ideas that perhaps we have done when we were teaching face-to-face, but now we want to do when we're teaching on an online context. Now, let's have a look at this. Perhaps you can't see this because you might have a straight line across the main screen, but you've got KWL. This is a lovely way to start your lessons. Obviously, you couldn't do it all the time because it would become quite boring, but you can do it from time to time. And the idea is that students reflect on what they already know about a specific topic and what they would like to know about a specific topic. And then the last section of this chart would be what I have learned about the specific topic and what has been covered in class. So reflection at the end of a lesson is a very good idea, because that way it gives you the opportunity to find out what students have actually understood in the lesson, and it gives that the students the opportunity to reflect for 2 or 3 minutes and to try to realize the things that they've grasped or the things that they haven't actually grasped. Also, it's very important to bear in mind that we might have large groups of students or even smaller groups of students, and students might already know something about the topic or the subject, and they might be quite happy to contribute to the lesson. So don't assume that students will know nothing about the topic, because in fact they'll know quite a lot. So why don't we do the following? In the chat, I would like you to answer the first 2 questions. What I know about online activities and what I want to know about them. So if you can just very quickly, just a short sentence or some words to answer the first 2 tables. What I know about online activities and the reason I'm doing this session today. What I want to know. Just a couple of minutes in the chat. Okay, fantastic. So your contributions are coming in. Remember, it's a great idea to read other people's contributions, as the ideas will be coming from lots of different areas and points, not only from the presenter. Talking about speed dating in class. Don't worry, I'm going to actually explain the meaning of speed dating for us. I was going to say boring English teachers. Sorry, that's a terrible thing to say, but I consider myself quite a boring person. But speed dating. Disregard what you read on the internet. The internet is not true. My explanation is 100% right, okay? I've got the correct definition of speed dating. Speed dating is a process in which highly professional English teachers like you or me, because don't forget it, even though you might be teaching online courses for the first time ever, you're still an English teacher and you've still got lots of experience. This speed dating is when we all get together on Friday evenings, because we have nothing better to do, to meet other teachers and discuss effective and interesting online activities. Okay? And in a speed dating activity, you would have 3 minutes to speak to different people in the room and present yourself. And in this case, obviously, it's going to be presenting an activity. This is, again, a lovely activity that you could do in class with your students, depending obviously on levels, but you could put them in breakout rooms, and every so often you could change the students and put them into different breakout rooms so they could continue talking about the same topic, or you could ask them to answer another question, but they're always moving from breakout room to breakout room. And that way you're changing the interaction pattern. The grouping is changing as well, so students are not always working with the same student. So this will give them an opportunity perhaps to work with someone who is stronger than them, someone who is weaker than them, someone who is at the same level, who might be very good at grammar, have incredible vocabulary. So it's the opportunity to constantly change around. Now, in this activity, we are going to work in pairs. Again, don't worry if you don't have much experience or if you don't feel that you are able to answer the question, but just with your own ideas, with your own experience, maybe what you have been reading or what you've seen in other sessions, I would like you to discuss what makes a good online activity. So for example, in my case, I'll start off, a good online activity is something that's not very complicated and that doesn't require much effort or time to set up. So obviously not something too complicated that are going to get students muddled and confused. So the instructions are, you're going to go into breakout rooms in a moment, and you're going to brainstorm and exchange with your partner what makes a good online activity. Rachel, sorry, could you repeat those instructions to the group again, please?
Actually, I was just responding to someone in the chat. Sorry, I missed that.
I caught you, my goodness. Okay, that's what happens. That's why it's always important to double check instructions, because students are going to be doing the same. Okay, well in that case, it's going to be poor Emma again today. Emma, can you please reformulate? Hopefully you are not chatting to someone else.
I was also responding to the chat. I'm sorry, James.
Okay, so the idea is we're going to go to breakout rooms and we're going to brainstorm what makes a good online activity. Okay, my goodness me, there you go. Never assume that your students are paying attention, because most of the time they won't be, trust me. Okay, wow, that was interesting. Also, you've got to be very careful that you don't put students on the spot, okay, because it could be quite embarrassing for them.
And interrupt you for a moment. Yeah, just so as some of us are teachers who haven't even done our training yet, and they're very shy, and so just be, if you are a beginner teacher or you're about to do a CELT or a Trinity Cert TESOL and you're not ready and not feeling confident, just don't be afraid to say, I'm just listening today. Okay, it's all right.
Exactly,
You're
yes.
among friends.
Exactly. Remember that we don't judge one another, okay? We're all in the same boat. So if you're more than happy just to lurk and to listen, that's perfectly fine, okay? Let's put you into different groups now. And you'll be going into breakout rooms. Remember, that depends on internet connection. If you still want to participate and for some reason you are left out of a breakout room, you could perhaps just add your contributions to the chat. These are some of the things that I came up with when talking about online activities. Those of you who are perhaps starting off doing online lessons perhaps wanted to do things a bit more slowly and not organize super complicated activities. Breakout rooms are not difficult, but if you're not confident at the beginning, just give yourself some time to find your feet and just do teacher to student activities and bit by bit explore other possibilities. But in my case, the idea of an online lesson should be achievable, so students should be able to carry out the task. It should maximize student production, so really students should be doing all the work. So in my case, I try to get the students, if possible, to do the writing task or to create the questions that they would then ask their partners. So try to involve your students as much as possible, because looking at a screen for an hour or an hour and 20 minutes can be quite boring because you don't have the possibility of doing lots of kinesthetic activities. So if the students are involved at all times, it will make things easier for them, more interesting. Try to devise activities that are open-ended, so not activities that always have a right or wrong answer. Obviously, try to include motivating activities, and that might be by including pictures, which you can use when you share your screen, or asking your students to contribute things, and so on. Personalize the activity. Obviously, it must be appealing to different learning styles. So think about those kinesthetic type of learners, or the visual learners, or those who prefer working alone, or those who like working in personal groups. So it needs to be important. It needs to be fun, I think. Okay, so if it's something that you wouldn't enjoy, well, why should your students do something like that? Now, my sessions tend to be practical. Okay, so what you can see at the moment is something that I have created using Wordle. Okay, I will write the word in the chat so you can all see it. Okay, I have used Wordle, but there are loads of other very similar pages. Okay, and the idea is you can create some sort of graffiti like this one. So a lovely activity could be, for instance, if you're going to be doing a reading or a listening activity, read the tape script first, or read the actual text first, write down the main words in Wordle, and then they will appear like this. And then you can ask your students to look at the words and try to predict, try to guess what the reading or the listening is going to be. So again, what we're doing is we are increasing student talking time. We're getting them to speculate. We're getting them to think. We're preparing their brains. There's a very posh term called activating schemata. So those of you who are thinking of doing formal lessons, you always write activating schemata when you're talking about getting students to predict and to think what the language might be in the text or the listening activity. And obviously, as you can see, it can be quite colorful. You're using different fonts, different sizes, different colors as well. So it's quite visual. So this could actually appeal to visual learners. And it's always something a bit different. Okay, so we're going to move on because I've just played around with my screen. Can everybody see it? Yes? Okay. As you can see, okay, this is a very basic activity because it's only fruit vocabulary. In a moment, I will give you opportunities to think on how you could adapt this activity. But here we've got some fruit. So I am going to tell you how I do this with children, okay? And then later on we can think about how we could adapt it with other ages. And I tell my students, okay, we're going to use our memory. So concentrate, concentrate. Look at the screen because one of the fruits is going to disappear in a moment. Okay? It is a very typical activity that we do with flashcards. But as we are now online, it's a bit more difficult to do. So it's thinking of how you can adapt flashcard games with students. Flashcards, images, are an important way to learn vocabulary, and it's useful at all ages and all levels. So, concentrate, concentrate, please. Let's see if this works. Okay, looking at your screen, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and which one's disappeared? Can you write it in the chat if you remember, please? Let's see who was concentrating, concentrating. Aha, good. I can see that some people were concentrating. Well done, well done. Okay, which one has disappeared now? Can you write it in the chat, please? Right, I am not going to continue because obviously you can do it with as many items of vocabulary you wanted. Okay, but it's quite a fun activity. With children, you can exaggerate even more, okay? Use your telescope, or use your magic glasses, or use your whatever. Make it even more exciting for them, okay? It's very easy to create. It's just PowerPoint, okay? And it's just allowing the objects to appear and disappear gradually. I have decided to use fruit vocabulary because that's what I'm teaching my children at the moment. But obviously, you could do with whatever vocabulary you wanted. So, what we're going to do now is I'm going to put you into different breakout rooms. Now, warning, instruction time. If you're drinking your coffee or chatting to your friend, be careful because someone is going to be nominated in a moment to repeat the instructions, okay? I am going to put you into breakout rooms. I would like you to tell your partner if it's an activity that you think you could use in class, how you could adapt it, perhaps so you could use it with young learners, with teenagers, and with adults. Okay? So, Ian, as I've got you here in front, can you repeat the instructions, please?
And you're obviously watching me write them down as well, so that's very useful.
Good for you.
So we're going to be going into breakout rooms, and we're going to discuss, is it an activity we could use, and how we would adapt it depending on the student age, etc.
Fantastic, excellent, well done, good, thank you so much, excellent.